Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Trading Takes with myself, Sam, Chris, and Judah, presented to you by Investors Underground. Now, tonight we've got an absolutely fantastic guest on, and I'm particularly excited about tonight. He's one of the guys who, in the early days, I just absolutely looked up to. I slid into his DMs quite a lot, and he always took the time to reply. So, just an all-around cool, nice guy. He used to be digital, but now he's analog. Of course. It's Mr. Ricky Analog. How you doing?
I'm good, man. My romantic brother in my DMs.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not a young blonde trader or anything like that. I'm just some oversized guy from Britain. Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. How are things going?
Things are good, man. Thanks for having me.
Good. No, thank you for taking the time. And like we were just chatting off camera. It's been a while since I think we've seen or heard from you. So there's probably actually going to be quite a few people who might not know who Ricky Analog is. So just by way of elevator pitch, just by way of introduction, can you just give like a brief top line, about yourself?
Yeah. So I've been trading for a little over a decade. It's crazy how time flies like that. But I started out trading small caps. If you trade small caps and you don't know me, then you might have heard of the Dig series on YouTube. It's like, I put some videos together about reading SEC filings back in the day. I can't even remember how many years ago that was, but so a lot of people kind of did know me from that. And for years, I think I spent a lot of energy trying to shed that moniker of being like this small cap trader, because I do trade a lot of large caps. In fact, lately it's probably been more large caps than small caps. Yeah, I mean, I'm a father of three, skateboarder, golfer, been around for a while, know quite a few people in the industry. I'm, always willing to reach out and help people that are showing me that they're trying to help themselves. So, I've worked with a lot of traders over the years. That pretty much covers the gist of it. Oh, and a Canuck.
No, thank you. And so you did that chat with Anthony maybe a couple of years ago. Since then, you changed coast.
Yeah, time zone switch. Went from California to Florida. There's pros and cons to both, right? Like, we really miss San Diego. It's hands down one of the nicest cities to live in. With children the age I have, it was really tough for being a trader because the bell would ring a lot of times when my young ones were waking up to get ready for school. So that's one of the things I don't miss. Obviously, here on the East Coast, it's really nice because when the bell rings, the kids have been in school for a few hours. I've actually had the luxury of a coffee and peace and quiet and a little bit of pre-market prep and some space to like clear my head and get ready for the day. But Florida and California are very, very different places. So
yeah, we talk about like adapting to markets a lot, but adapting to like new states, and like from what I've heard, I've been to Florida several times, and what I always hear is like when people move there, especially if like they're going through something with a house or like any projects, that like there's a time delay, like working with either contractors or like to get anything done like takes longer, like missed appointments. Has that been the case for you, or what do you think of Florida like all along?
Yeah, we've noticed very similar things. One of the anecdotes would be just like calling a place to try to book an appointment for something, and it almost seems impossible to get somebody to pick up a phone at a business. We honestly, I'm like, are these people in the business of making money, or are they like, it's a mystery to us.
They're all hanging out on hammocks.
I don't know what they're doing, but they're not trying to run a business.
I was gonna say that sounds painful, to be honest. But like, was time zone and like the whole kids thing, was that the main reason then, or the only reason?
Yeah, well, my wife retired, and we were paying California taxes, and it's like I have family here in Florida. We also have started doing some real estate stuff, and that the family member that I have here in Florida, that's his business. And so it was kind of one of those things where move here and have the benefit of learning from a mentor who's been in the industry for a while doing these things. And the time zone definitely played a part. I don't think it would ever move across the country just to switch time zones, but it was definitely one of the benefits.
How's your performance changed since moving?
So in California, it was really nail and bail, and then go golf, whatever. Here, I find myself I'll still trade the open. Like the first hour of the morning is usually where most of my money's made. But I'll go to the gym. Like I would like to go golf more, but a lot of times I know I'm going to want to be back on my desk around like 2:30 or whatever. So what I end up usually doing is digging out around 11. I go to the gym, and then come home, have lunch, relax a little bit, and then come sit down around 2:00. Where I never found myself really doing that much in California. So performance-wise, it's been better. Like I know my performance has been a lot better. I don't really think that's anything other than just having the office be completely quiet when it's time to focus. California was super stressful for kind of what I was talking about just a little bit ago about the bell ringing and then my kids losing their mind and my wife trying to put out fires without me. That caused a lot of anxiety and stress, and obviously that impacts your performance. It's funny, LX21 has spoken about it, about his situation trading where, his immediate family members know, you don't ever knock on his office door during the trading hours unless somebody's going to the hospital. He's like, it's like Tom Brady just not taking phone calls from his wife while he's on the field. And as silly as that sounds, it's super true because what we do isn't paid. You're not compensated by the hour, right? We are compensated by the opportunities, and you have to be fully present whenever the opportunity presents itself. And you can't do that when you have all these distractions.
Yeah. And when, speaking of stress, anxiety, all that, not only can a family situation or a living situation contribute to that, but just trading in general, it depending on the market, depending on your style and everything, you can go through especially drawn out periods of, a lot of stress or, very frustrating markets. You said, you golf, you skateboard. Is that how you kind of deal with some of that stress, or what do you do to kind of, stay level through those highs and lows?
Yeah, one, getting off desk, the days that always take the biggest toll on me are the days where somehow I get glued to my desk for the full day. Those are the ones when the market closes, I'm just sitting there feeling completely spent, sore jaw, just you don't know what the hell just happened. So definitely getting off desk, getting out in public and seeing other humans and realizing how lucky we are that, these people are all on their lunch break and they got to go back to work. And, we sit behind the desk and push some buttons and are somehow able to call that our profession. So, that kind of gives you that perspective of gratitude where you're just cool, man, maybe I've had a shitty day or whatever, but, in the big scheme of things, I have so much to be grateful for. And then exercise, whether it's the gym, golf, or skateboarding with my kid, definitely physical fitness is always a key element in staying centered and trying to combat the high levels of stress we kind of deal with.
Mm-hmm. And those days where you're glued and it's been a long day, is that usually a good type of long day, as in you've made decent money, or is it a shit, I'm a bit bent, or I've tried this a few too many times, whatever?
It's more often than not, it's the I had a shitty day, where even if you made back, maybe you took a bigger loss in the early session, and maybe you were able to claw back some of that money. It's almost not worth it when the day is over and you're like, dude, I did all that to make back something, maybe even make back the whole loss. I don't know, but it's just whatever it was is the opportunity cost of, your happiness. I'm not so certain it's always worth it.
Yeah. And we had that chat recently. I think we were chatting about, was it AUD? And
yeah,
I just got in it's just one of those where I mean, I just got in a bit of a fight with it, and then I mean, when the real opportunity showed up, I think like sort of midday-ish, whatever it was, I was just so spent and just unable to execute. I mean, it really sucked because that's what faded from like 5 something to 350. What do you say? 350.
350.
Yeah. 350. Just going back to like your 930 point, I think it's so interesting because when I traded with Nate, obviously we had his kids were around, but Laura was there going, yeah, come on guys, 9:30, the market's open, and the kids knew like what that meant. And over here, it's 2:30 for me. So like my girlfriend knows 2:30. That's probably not the time to ask me what I want for dinner or whatever.
Yeah, the kid, and it's weird because like we get so caught up in like our personal lives, and you know, it's always humans are very self-centered, regardless of like how humble you think somebody is. Like we're always like we see things through our perspective, and you forget there's little kids around, and they're sponges, right? Like they absorb everything. And I've heard my kids say things where I'm like, holy cow, like it's just an eye opener that's what they're taking away from, you know, like at one point when we were in California and I was dealing with a lot of that stress, just at one point, I think it was my son had said, I don't like it when you're working, Daddy. And I was like, that was like a dagger through the heart. And that was actually one of those changing points for me because I knew something had to change where like I don't want my kids to feel that way about me working. Like if that's the case, then you know I won't work when you're around. Like we'll figure it out because in terms of priorities, the kids come first. But that was where, you know, systematizing things really started to become more prominent in my trading. You know, as much as I like to be feeling like it's my decision making and trading very discretionary, you know, I had to like figure out a way that I could systematize as much as possible so that like it took away a lot of the anxiety and it took away, you know, any sort of issues we would have in the mornings. And that was a huge impact on just the overall happiness in the household and my relationship with my wife and kids. And those are the kinds of things where it's like I said, man, the kids absorb stuff crazy. Like I hear my son in the back seat of the car sometimes like, Dad, look at that idiot. He's not using his blinker. And I'm like, oh man, picking up everything that I say. So,
I mean, that's brilliant though. At least he's going to be a good driver when he grows up.
Yeah. That or a very angry one. I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm just like really interested because like it's something that I get, and also I wouldn't say like I struggle with, but it is. I think it's really difficult to separate the two sometimes. Like you said, we can be quite self-centered just naturally as humans, and like you know, like we had a conversation actually with my girlfriend recently, and she was like saying like such a small percent of you is a trader. Like don't let it be who you are, and don't let it be like you had a good day and you're happy and then you have a shit day and then you're sad, because it's just gonna, well, I mean that roller coaster is, I mean it sucks, right?
Yeah.
That's
mentally, if you attach your happiness or your mood to your P&L or your trading, like no trader has a smooth set, like, you know, it's not like that. That's not the way this job works. There's huge ups, there's huge downs. You have to learn how to like be very even keeled about it, because like if you're going to every time you have a crazy good day get super excited, or every time you have a really really bad day get super super down, you're going to destroy yourself just from your emotional roller coaster, right? You got to learn how to disassociate that. Your girlfriend's 100% right.
It's amazing, actually.
Hopefully she's in the next room over her.
Watching back to her. But she is great at things, and I think sometimes it's really good to speak to someone who has like, and maybe it's the same like with your wife. Like she understands like a little bit of what you're going through, but at the same time, like she doesn't have that attachment to your, you know, your equity curve or your P&L or whatever. So you can have quite a sensible conversation. I find anyway. Actually, sometimes the best conversations I have are with non-traders, because traders just want to talk about, you know, the technicals or whatever. This is what you did wrong. And sometimes actually you just need someone to say, you know, stop being an idiot, which she said that a lot to me as well.
Was that related to trading or was that for something else, Sam?
I think that just might be just a general sweeping statement. And I can really,
You got to get her on the podcast.
it should be great. She'd be better than me. Should I just go and I'll just go and swap now, I think. See you guys. I don't really know where to go next. Judah, Chris, you have to jump in.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
Ricky, you said, you know, you've been in the game for a long time. You've been trading for over a decade, and you know, it's a lot of people, like, they try out trading and just kind of over the years they drop out, and you know, you get a lot of people who've been trading 1, 2, 3 years, but you know, when you get into over a decade or more, you really start to see, you know, a huge percent drop off. And so I'd like to ask about, you know, being in the game for a while, do you think that new traders have unrealistic expectations of like how quickly they can succeed and like what their career as a trader will actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You know, when I work with newer traders that are struggling, a lot of it is from oversizing, right? Where, you know, they might, in a lot, I don't mean to bag on people with small accounts. That's not what this is about. But like a lot of times newer traders do have smaller accounts, right? Might be working with some guy who's got 10 grand to trade. And he's coming to me with issues where he's like losing like 2 or 3 grand on a trade. I'm like that doesn't jive. Like that's not going to give you any sort of chance at survival because you're not going to be around long enough. And it always stems from that expectation of being able to make big money fast instead of, you know, taking the scenic route and having to learn from some bumps and bruises, figure out what works for you and what doesn't, because not everybody can trade the exact same stuff, right? Like what works for one guy might not work for another. And all that takes time, right? Like, honestly, like, I don't even know if I would say that I had found what was really my sweet spot in the first 3 years. I might have thought I did, right? Like, because obviously I remember the first time I ever shorted a stock, I was like, oh, this is definitely it for me. Like, I got this. I can't believe I ever longed these shit codes, right? And it didn't take but maybe a year and a half from that day to like get smoked on a short and realize like, oh, shorting's not all it's cut out to be if you don't understand really, really bulletproof risk management. And that's not to say that I don't still kind of like gravitate towards short selling, but it was just this like, you know, naivete of something starts to work and you immediately think like, oh, this is it. This is what I will definitely make mine. And I find that that's really true in more than just trading. I think that's just something that applies to a lot of things in life, because I remember being young and when I first started skateboarding, I think I was like 12 or 13. And I just remember like learning how to do certain things and being like, oh man, I've got this. Like, dude, I'm for sure going to be like the next pro. And then you look back 2 years later at how silly you sounded and how, you know, naive you were. And that cycle repeats, you know, then you're like, oh, now I got it. 2 years later, you look back, you're like, holy shit, I was still a naive young punk. And that is very true in trading too, where like something clicks and the market's really good at rewarding people for stuff that isn't necessarily good trading. You know, you can make a lot of money from a bad trade. And if you're not smart enough to understand like why that was a bad trade, hold on, I've got landscapers outside my window right now. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not.
Barely.
No, you're fine.
Sorry if you can. But yeah, so like, you know, if you're not humble enough and smart enough and well equipped enough to identify a trade where you made a lot of money as a bad trade, where you were rewarded for negative behavior, what you're naturally going to do is think that was the right trade, that you were smart, you were, you know, you're God's gift to the freaking market and you can do no wrong. And that's just setting you up for the inevitable huge downfall, right? So, yeah, that's just one of those things that, you have to learn, and you have to kind of stay humble, and you have to stay, as egoless as possible, but still confident enough to like hit the button when the time comes.
Yeah, that's 100% me. I remember, this is a real. I should go to confession for this. In my first month of trading, everything was just going vertical, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was buying tons of shit, and I remember I had a decent day. I'd made over $1,000. It was like my first month, and I took a screenshot and sent it to my mum, saying like, I'm going to do this. And I mean, that's probably one of the cringiest things I've ever done. And then like slowly, like I was on that road, and it just was like, well, I had no idea. I thought it was easy and had no idea what I was doing. Going back to that, like the small account, and someone risking 3K or just losing 3K from out of that 10K. What's typical for you, and what do you think sort of a sensible percent of account then to be risking?
Personally, I mean, I can only speak for myself. On trades that I typically take during the opening hour, I have hotkeys set up where I can hit a hotkey to get into a trade, and it puts me in risking 1% of my full account on that trade. Now, I do have secondary hotkeys. If something is extremely A+, it will risk more than my typical hotkey entry, but my typical risk is 1%. Now, obviously, the problem with that is when you talk to a guy with a $10,000 account and tell them that they should only risk 1% of their account, they do the math in their head, and they're like, dude, I'm never going to be able to make money if that's all I'm risking. It's like, yeah, well, when you have a $10,000 account, the goal isn't to pay your bills. It's to be around long enough to start to get this. And, again, just the concept of you only worried about paying your bills right now, that's already going to put you in a bad position, right? Like, you're not coming to the market telling the market what you need. Like, we're supposed to come here and say, look, I'm present to capitalize on an opportunity. And you know what? Even the most A+ setup in the world can fail. And you can sit there and go, there's no way this trade's failing. Like, it's as A+ as it gets. And if you don't have the trader maturity in you to cut that trade and stop out, you can get absolutely smoked on the most A+ setup, right? And it's like that itself can just be really disheartening. But that's one of those things we all know is true in the game, right? Like, even people that have like these 90+% win rates, which, if you have a 90+% win rate, great on you. I'm not trying to knock it. But the question becomes like, can you acknowledge that, like, even with let's say a 95% win rate, 1 out of every 20 of those trades isn't going to work. Are you able to identify quickly that 1 out of 20 that's not it? Or are you going to go to war with it because you're too stubborn to say, well, maybe this is that 1 out of 20, right? Or not realizing that maybe you get 2 or 3 in a row that are not going to work, even though it's a 95% win rate, right? You don't know the order of those losses. You might get 2 or 3 in a row and then have a string of wins, but you're not in control of that. And then again, of course, the other problem I have with these high win rates is if they're legitimate win rates, or if people are breaking their rules in order to have that win rate, right? Like, here's my setup, here's my system, this is what I trade. And then I look at their trades and I go, yeah, but this one here, you should have stopped out and you added to it instead. And yeah, at the end of the day, you made money, but that shouldn't go in the win call, not for your system, right? So here's the problem. Now you're trading a system that might have an 80% win rate, but you're telling yourself it has a 95% win rate. That's going to screw you. So all of these things are stuff that just take time to learn and kind of incorporate in your systems and your way of thinking, because when you're a newer trader, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times the newer traders too are too high and mighty to listen to the old bulls that have been around the block, right? Like, I've talked to so many guys where I'm like telling them, like, hey, maybe that's something you might want to cut out. Oh, no, you're silly. You don't understand what I understand. Okay.
Yeah. I'm always extremely cynical when I see such high win rates, and I touched on this before on here, but like when when I sort of got the terms with my win rate and actually started accepting the 50%, which is where I tend to hover, is a reasonable, like, is nothing to be smoked at. And you've got people like Kulamagi, is probably like one of the, widely considered one of the, the best traders, retail traders around, with like a 30% win rate. And I think Brian's talked about having some months he'll have a 30% win rate and then still double his account, right? and it's like, I mean, it's kind of giving jack shit, except
that's where the issue comes in with what Ricky was saying about losing $3,000 on a 10 grand account. Because if your win rate's 30%, the other, the 30% that you're actually winning on is going to be a lot less. Like you can't lose 30% of your account on one trade, because then it's clear that you don't even have the process to ride the winners on the other side. So like you're keeping those losses down, and it could take you 20 more trades just to make that back. And even if you have, let's say, a 10 grand account, all you need is to make, let's say you put 20% of your account in a trade, right? So it's $2,000 in a trade. Listen, if you have a good process today, at least on things that are moving, it's not difficult to catch a few 12, 15, 20% within minutes or even hours, or swing trades, 20, 30% moves. So like to make $200 to $400 a day, that's only on 1 out of 5 positions that you could take. So it adds up. If you have a good process and you're making 10% on 20% of your account, and you have 5 of those positions, it adds up. And like 250 trading days, and over time you compound the account. Like you got to just think macro on an account, and not just like what you're making today on day one with that small account. It's all about the process and all about growing it, and it speeds up. I think I read somewhere, I don't know the exact number, but Warren Buffett was like worth like 500 million at 60, and
Yeah.
then like everything compounded after that. And then like over 30 years, he turned that into what, 150, 200 billion. So it's like it all is the process of compounding and just having a process, and then it all comes together as you continue to build that account. But if you're trying to make, and I understand it, like you have a small account, you want to like a grand slam to try to just get to a certain level, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah. Well, even if you hit that grand slam, right? What makes you think you're going to keep it?
Yeah,
Because
you'll
you
give
have
it back, obviously. So it's
yeah. No, and I think also it's just important to note for anyone watching this. I'm pretty sure Judo is talking about trading small caps with those kinds of percent gains, right? So it's like, 10, 15% moves happen really often in the small cap realm. And, you do have to be careful, like how much of your account you're putting into those trades. But even, like, I want to also make it clear to anybody watching that, just because you have a small account, you should not think that means you can't trade large caps. Most of these brokers are giving you 4 to 1. And there's times when, even with a larger account, I'll find myself at max BP on a trade, not because like I'm risking a ton, but just because the price of that stock is high enough that, in order to take the amount of shares where it actually is risking 1% of my account, it requires me to use a little bit of leverage. But that does, there's a difference between risking 1% of my account and putting in, whatever percent of my account. Just because I put in my whole account into a trade does not mean I'm risking more than 1%, right? You have to understand the dynamics of capital that you have to put to work versus the actual capital at risk, and where your stop loss is, and where position sizing comes into play with that.
Mm-hmm. And those hotkeys are just, I think they're just brilliant.
It was one of those things, like when you've traded for over 10 years, the amount of times you have aha moments lessens, right? Like obviously when you're a newer trader, you have aha moments all the time, but like I'll go a few years, where before anything really stands out to me as like a holy shit. And that was one of the ones in the last like 5 years where I think I've been using them for 3 or 4 years now. Just remember somebody pointing that out to me and how you can code that into DOS. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because like one of the biggest things is if you're trying to catch trades during the opening 30 minutes of the market when things are flying, like you can kind of like back of the napkin math it and be like, oh, I know roughly how many shares I should take to express this trade. It's nothing like being able to just not think about it, right? Just hit a button. And it's like, on top of that, there's been times when like a trade would actually require me to put on an amount of shares that might actually kind of make me hesitate, where I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of shares to take to risk, you know, whatever I think my risk is on this trade. And it might make me hesitate. Whereas I can hit a button and I don't even see it unless I look at my position monitor, right? If I'm looking at my charts, all I see is the triangle, like my execution triangle. Until I look down at my position monitor, I'm like, holy cow, I have a lot of this position, but I can rest it, you know, I can rest easy knowing where my stop loss is still the same 1 hour loss. Like I'm not oversized. Had I had to do that manually, you're like, hey, you need to take this many shares of Meta right now. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I don't know about that. Maybe we'll tone that down a little bit.
Yeah. And have you made the latest DAS update and just display R now in your realized?
Yeah, I love it. I love it because before, so I didn't have anything showing, right? Like I didn't have P&L or anything. I just had my position window where it shows the bid, the ask, my average cost, and you know, a few other things like your account number and the symbol or whatever. Mm-hmm. But now that they have that, now I'll have the R showing, or the unrealized and the realized R, because that doesn't do the same thing in my mental process as looking at a dollar number. And yeah, that's one of those things I haven't seen my P&L while I'm trading for probably over 8 or 9 years. Wow. It's been a long time. And I mean, this started way before I ever had DOS. Like I remember trading on Interactive Brokers and having to like move a window in front of the P&L because they don't have a way to just hide it. And so it was like, you know, back in the day, just trying to figure out ways to get rid of that from my screen. Because me personally, it was just one of those things where like, I know other people that it doesn't affect at all. I'm not one of them. It's okay.
Yeah, I understand. I think it's such a just such a good update. Just being able to see it. I think just there's so much less attachment to, you know, like if you burn a starter, you drop 0.5 R instead of still to make the, you know, the right decision the next time. You know, I think it's brilliant. Sorry, Chris, I jumped in.
Yeah. And Ricky, I've heard you talk about kind of like the difference between like having a good idea versus like the execution. Like you were just talking about, you know, some tools that helped you execute. Could you talk about, you know, execution and, you know, why that's so important, and maybe a couple of tricks that can help people to focus on that instead of just focusing on getting an idea?
Yeah. So the concept behind that comment, I think originally was it was trying to illustrate like one, how important risk management is, because, you know, any idea can work. And that's like, a lot of people will start from the idea and be like, especially when you work with other traders, people always want to throw ideas at you and ask you what you think about them. Like, hey, Ricky, what about XYZ at this level, blah, blah, blah. And I always have to like kind of remind people that like, one, I don't know anything, right? Like the only things I know are the things that I can objectively say, if this, then that. And anything outside of that, I literally will resort to saying, I don't know. And the reason is because nobody does, and the market can and will do anything at times, right? And so, you know, I don't ever want to tell somebody, yo, that idea is not going to work, because usually when I say that, the idea works. Two, I want people to get used to the idea of being able to create a trade plan and understand how to manage their risk. And once they're okay with the risk and understanding all the nuances of it, the risk reward, and, you know, where you're right, where you're wrong, understanding why a stock could get to a certain level and it's rational and not just you shooting for the stars, get them used to the confidence and the ability to hit the button, because a lot of them hesitate and struggle with that. They're like, oh, I have this idea. And a lot of times, you know, this isn't always just in trading, but like, I feel like in life, ideas are a dime a dozen. Like, I've known so many people that will be like, dude, I had the greatest idea for this product, right? And they're like, I don't want to share it with anybody. I can't tell anybody. Like, dude, I'm pretty sure you could tell whoever you want. It doesn't matter, because the only thing that matters is execution, right? Like, everybody has a million ideas, but most people don't do jack shit about them. And same goes for the market. Like, I can look at any stock and come up with an idea. The question is, like, is there an edge? Is there any validity to the idea? And even if the idea does work, was it a smart decision to put risk? Because I'll see ideas all the time. I can look at any chart and be like, man, like right now, if if XYZ were to push into this level and stuff, then I think you could express a trade by putting a short on there of risk over that previous high and see if it wants to hold trend and go lower. Okay, great, because stocks trend all day long, all the time, all over the market. But why does that idea make sense, and why is that higher probability than just a coin flip? Because by and large, most ideas are coin flips. If you can figure out which ones aren't through data, that's where you kind of get your edge, and then it becomes like executing. Because once you have the edge and your system around it, execution's everything. You literally have to be able to execute your edge repeatedly every single day. And a lot of the reasons people can't seem to be based on emotional factors and the cliche FOMO, and the greed factor is always in there as well. But you could have, I see people all the time that have good strategies, and then I look at their results, and they're like not getting the results that strategy should get. Why? Well, because they're not executing it. Like, well, why'd you do this? Well, that trade. What do you mean? Don't say that. Like, you have a plan. You either going to stick to it or not. A lot of traders I've worked with, I always ask them this. I say, you have to make a decision. Do you want to make a career out of this, or is this just like a hobby for you? Because if you really, really want to make a career out of it, the only way to do that is by having really, really extreme discipline. It all boils down to that. Can you execute with complete discipline, or are you going to always be the guy that like has a string of wins because you're disciplined, and you break your discipline one day and give it all back? Because that's the guy that just makes a hobby out of it, and you're just spinning your tires.
Yeah, and that discipline is so important, and I feel like that is what separates like a kind of an amateur or someone who does this as a hobby versus someone who does it, over a sustained career. And it kind of like brings to mind, I had this idea, or I thought about this a couple of years ago, how people who trade, very sloppy, or like they get this huge rush, or it's like they're getting their reward on the experience of the trade and not of the outcome. But a professional, they get their reward from the outcome, not necessarily because it was always the most enjoyable or the most exciting thing along the way. So yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think
that kind of harks back to I can't remember which big hedge fund trader it was that had the saying, right? But he always said, everybody gets what they want out of the market, right? Like, if that's what you're in it for, then that's what you're getting.
Yeah, I also think like the risk management, like you said, along with execution, is really everything. Because, like, I think we mentioned this last week, but everyone sees the same things, or at least a bunch of traders see the same things. It's about when you take it, when you sell it, it's basically when you sell it for profit or for a loss. And like, people ride stocks to the upside for a lot longer than others. And when people are selling, other people are buying. So it's all really, like you say, execution, if that's what you mean, as well as the risk management. And at the end of the day, you have to execute, and you have to have risk, because nobody knows. At the end of the day, nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what it will do. Like, it could be the greatest setup ever, and then, you know, news could come out the next day, or it could just fail. And like, you could just be on a string of luck, but you have enough risk management there to get you out at the right times, and your wins keep you in long enough to cover those losses. So like, yeah, things look good. Like, my watch lists, at least lately, like, they're great setups, but like, a lot of them don't work out, and it's up to you to either pass on them before they even hit the alert, or don't hit the alert at all, or to take them with the set risk where like another trade covers it. So like, yeah, it's the same setups over and over again, and it's just about evaluating them in the moment and saying like, the right is this the right time to be taking it? Is there enough volume? Is there enough things behind it to back it up? And if you do take it, you have to know when to sell it, either for the profit or loss. Because like a setup's a setup, but at the end of the day, we don't know what it'll end up doing. And it could be the greatest setup in the world, and you could have the biggest loss on it ever if you just let your emotion take over.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm always reminded of, and I love people who just say I don't know. And like I remember like, in the early days, like messaging Nate, and he'd just be like, I don't know. Like, and I think that's like the best answer, because what am I really after? It's usually when someone's asking you, what do you think of this position? It's usually too late, and it's usually they probably should do the right thing and get the hell out. Just before not before we wrap up, but I don't want to run out of time because I really want to chat to you about dilution. Like, and you touched on earlier, like that's how you sort of made your fame with how many D's is it?
It's not fame. There's no fame. Trust me.
You're famous to me, Ricky. But I'm interested in how different is it now for you, and has dilution tracker, has it changed the game? And you know, is it still important to be able to read filings, etc.? And just I'm really interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it goes in cycles, in my opinion. And again, this is just my opinion, but like I've seen cycles where, you know, reading filings becomes like the shiny object. Everybody wants to learn how to read filings, and eventually, like, it's really boring, to be honest with you, reading filings. If you've ever opened the SEC Edgar pages and peruse some of these filings, you're like, oh, how do people do it? It's very boring. So it doesn't take long for the allure to wear off. Now, granted, now it's much easier because you have platforms that just serve it up on a silver platter for you, right? But the one thing that I've always kind of said, and I think I said this even back in the days of making those YouTube videos, was, you know, filings is not what tells you when to hit the button, right? It's all technicals and levels for when to hit the button. For me personally, filings is like how much I want this trade, like how A+ is this, because it could set up really great and not have any sort of red flags in the filings or anything. And I'm going to trade it like I would that setup, but I'm not going to just hammer it the way I might if, when I went and looked at the filings, I can easily spot a black and white agenda that's at play here, and have that kind of like ace up my sleeve to be like, look, this setup is not created equal. This is one of those ones where, you know, this could be one of those bigger trades for the month, quarter, or even your year. And it still has to technically set up. So it's like, I've actually seen situations where there's different types of things you'll find in filings. I think one of the most simple things people find is ATMs. And so there's been situations where you have a very obvious ATM. It might even be really fresh. Like maybe they just got the notice of effectiveness last week. And lo and behold, here they are, like with some PR gapping it up, 50, 60% in the pre-market. And you got all these guys who, they don't understand what they should understand about reading a chart, but they do understand dilution tracker, and they do understand that there's this $250 or $250 million ATM at play. And so here they are, like right off the open, shorting, and the stock's just making higher lows and higher highs. And it's like, look, price is telling you something. Are you willing to listen? Because at the end of the day, I don't care if there's an ATM or not. If the price is going higher and the trend is telling you up, and you're sitting there shorting it till you're blue in the face, you're really risking a huge loss. Because if they're not selling that ATM, if they're not diluting it right in your face, you're going to have a lot of people that are all thinking the same as you, and you're going to end up being what causes the squeeze that allows traders that are more patient and understand how to read a chart to sit back, allow you guys to all get squeezed out, and then step in when the time is right. So again, like, all the filings in the world don't tell me when to hit the button. They just tell me how much to want that idea, right? Or
Yeah.
how juicy something can be.
This reminds me of Eric Wood, because like you always see on like especially these names that are gapping up a lot and continuing, he'll always mention like how they either need cash or they're diluting and dilution, and you hear it all the time. And then a lot of people may think that he's like already in there short and he's getting squeezed and they think he's underwater. Really, he's just prepared for when that backside hits. It could go much, much further than you think. Because like at the end of the day, everything has backside. But you could get an idea of how far that backside will be based on the filings. So like filings can tell you how much there is to go. And a lot of times these things will more than round trip if the filings are there. But then there's also stocks that don't really have anything in the filings, but they squeezed out a lot. And now they're giving some back, yet they're going to hold some midpoint, or they're not going to give back as much just because there's nothing in the filings that are that negative. So like, understanding filings helps a lot on the backside. And it's the
Yeah,
same thing on the long side.
it could literally be the difference between a day trade and a swing.
Exactly. Yeah. And the same thing on the long side, like Nvidia, SMCI, all these stocks that are doing really well and have awesome earnings. It's like you may be buying it like if you were to look right now at Nvidia, their earnings or like their growth or what they've been doing, then you like, I mean, not here it's looking decent, but like let's say a few weeks ago you're buying there, like you're buying at the wrong time. You know, you want to buy at the right time technically and mix that in with the fundamental, because at the end of the day they could have the best fundamentals ever, but you're buying at the top, and this thing has just pretty much went from 475 500 to basically 1,000 within a few months, or SMCI, which tripled. And like you're thinking, oh, this is amazing fundamentals and news, but you don't see that this thing just went from 350 to 1,200. So it works both ways. It's all you got to mix the technical with the fundamental and know what's behind it to know how far these things can go.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned Nvidia because it's I have it on my chart marked back in March of 2023. It literally, I'm looking at my chart right now, and it just says Nvidia files $10 billion mix shelf, and I swear it never ticked lower. It was
Ever.
like, but I remember seeing people on Twitter like, "Oh, this is the top. Nvidia's screwed when they start selling this." It's like, dude, and
I remember that. I remember that from this patch you had
yeah.
on Twitter then. It's funny. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Tesla was the same, right? Like Tesla, they diluted over the years, and it just, again, didn't.
There's a lot of names where it's like, you know, if there's like a lot of shorts in a name and they're all kind of, you know, maybe it didn't close as weak as they wanted it to, and everybody's like, yeah, but really high chance of an offering after hours, and then the offering hits, and then it gives like that little knee-jerk flush, but then just yanks right back up, and you're like, oh, this is going to squeeze bad. Why? Because everybody was banking on this offering taking the price lower, so everyone's short, and it's obviously they're wrong. And what happens when everybody's running for the exits at the same time? It's like we see it all the time, and I get messages all the time like, I don't understand, like, they did an offering, isn't that negative? I'm like, I mean, it can be. I mean, but if you think about it, you know, doing an offering, at least the company's getting some cash. Maybe they're extending their runway for how long they can pay their light bill. So it's not always the most negative thing in the world. You also have to look at like the way they're structuring the offering. You know, is there full coverage of warrants? It's like there's a lot of things that go into it. But the thing that never fails is that it's not the filings, it's not the fundamentals, it's none of that that matters at that moment. What matters is price and the trend. And, you know, if everybody thinks something's going lower and it's making higher lows and higher highs, it's easy to see who's on the wrong side of that trade.
I think they say the second reaction is the best reaction, which is
Dude.
like, you know, if in the first moment you get that like pull, I mean, especially with like FOMC and all these like everything with huge data, you know, you get that initial rip and then you get a certain feeling that it would do that. And then like 4 minutes later, we're at like weekly lows. So
There was a trade
yeah,
like that today. I traded MRVL, and
yeah,
it had a rip
yeah,
previous day's highs. I was like, man, it's in the semiconductor space. Semis are having a pretty strong day today. I was like, I might buy this on a pullback to like that little break level.
hmm
So I think I bought like 71.17 or something. And I was like, I'm going to cut it under 70.80. But it's one of those trades where, and like, I mean, what's today's date? 4/11. So it's like people wanted to reference it when they're watching this. April 11th, MRVL, I think it was around 10 a.m. or something. I don't remember. But that move is one of those moves where, just like you're saying, like that second reaction sometimes is a lot more powerful because it gives you the ability to flip bias. You're like, you know, a lot of people probably just did what you did. And if they don't have good risk management and that thing breaks those levels, you have people that need to stop out that aren't. You have people that are adding to a loser. Yeah, there's the chart. So I actually flipped short. I think around 70. I would have to look at my executions here. 71.29. I flipped short, and I just covered in that flush down into the 70s. And it's like, you know, you might be a little upset about the loss on the long because you bought that pullback, but that trade, you see that set up a lot out there. Something news-based hits, algos drive it higher because they're just trading the headline, and then all of a sudden it breaks the levels where it kind of pushed from. That to me is usually a really, really safe and high conviction short. Not for like anything more than a quick trade, but high conviction because of the psychology behind it. And God forbid you look at like a 20-minute chart on that name. Like it was literally that pop created the lower high on a 20-minute chart that then came and broke that level. It was, you know, just exactly what needed to happen for that thing to flush lower. So yeah, like exactly what you were saying is like that. Sometimes that initial move is exactly what you need to pull in the wrong side, and then
yeah.
the second move is what really gets going.
That's something I had to learn because I initially starting out trading was news was big to me, and I would at the time it worked during COVID. Like everything you took on news worked out, and then over time it just stopped working out. So something I had to learn was just give it time and let it build. But I think the best combination is that daily along with the news, and I think it's helpful to have an idea of the daily, like whether it had volume a few days ago and people maybe stuck on the short side, or whether it's breaking out of this consolidation. So it just, yeah, it's a lot more that just goes into just having news. It could be the most positive news, but that could be the top. So I think patience is where it really comes into play, and like looking at different factors such as like previous volume and daily build, and just it's just a lot more than that because we just saw it today on MRVL. Like you would think that without even looking at the daily, right? You would think that that's a good buy, but it went right into those levels, like you said, from the past 2 days, and then like if you go to the daily chart, you could see. I mean, that was a pretty big level. Today's highs was like a pretty big level. So if all you did was pull up the daily chart, you would be like, all right, let me let this build over 74 and maybe retest, and then yeah, this could have been a great move, maybe back to the 80s. But that rejection, just like yeah, they had that here. What was it actually? Let's see quick. It was actually the AI event that they had. So
Yeah, they had mentioned something about their AI profits in the next quarters or whatever.
yeah, so it could have been positive. You could have thought it would be positive, but at the end of the day, that it just the price action
Well,
is
and where's it trading right now, right? Like it's almost back to where it was. So it's like it's not necessarily that it wasn't a positive. It's just that there was an overreaction. Like
yeah.
you had this overreaction to the upside, and then when it broke levels, you get a same overreaction to the downside. And eventually people work themselves out. The day traders work themselves out, and then things settle where they're going to settle. But that was one of those things I actually had to learn to deprogram from my way of trading was thinking that I needed to know the news. I used to, so that trade showed up on my scanner, and I don't go and look at the news. I literally was trading it based on what price action was telling me. I was like, look, volume's coming in. It's part of the semiconductor space. if it pulls back to where it just broke out from, I'm going to put something on. And it had a really clear as day stop. It was, I think it was like 70, 80 or something. There was like the previous higher low. And I was like, dude, that's like very minimal risk. I can't remember if I had full size on that or not, but it didn't matter because it was one of those trades where that initial move is such an overreaction that, when it breaks those levels, it's usually going to have follow through. It's going to have follow through enough times, often enough that I'm willing to put that trade on every single time. Are there times I'm wrong? Of course. Dude, there's been times where you see that same move comes, breaks that level, pulls me in, I get short, and then it swipes back up. Happens. But I'm super confident and comfortable with that trade. Like, I take that trade every time I see it. But for the longest time, I used to think, I needed to go look at the news. By the time you go find the news, you're too late already, unless you're Judah. But for me personally, by the time I go locate the news, I'm too late. Second of all, I was such a mean reversion trader that I would find myself like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. on a Friday, something ripping because of some headline, like probably an acquisition chat or whatever. And I'd be sitting there going, where am I shorting this? And I had to like really deprogram from that, because a lot of my bigger losses came from trying to short like late day news that was causing a stock to have strength. And I started flipping. I was like, dude, I got to quit shorting those. And I started longing them. And I was like, dude, it's so much easier when that volume comes in and the price action's agreeing with you to like get with the freaking flow and just ride it. Because sometimes I'm like remembering like from PTSD, like how bad I've been smoked. And like a lot of people are like, I should be selling this here because it's getting extended. I'm like, dude, I remember before when I used to short these, I was like, it can go a lot higher than you think. And so as long as you understand how to kind of read the trend on even like lower time frames, like if something's getting volume going parabolic, give it a chance. Let it try to hold like even a 1 minute trend, something like on a lower time frame, because a lot of times it'll hold that longer than you think it can, and it'll keep you in the trade longer. And when that finally breaks down, you can take your exit, and usually you're well in the money. But it was a huge thing for me to stop trying to make that into a mean reversion trade instead of a trend join.
Great thoughts. And I mean, I wish I was better at trend joining. Very much something to work on. Just before we finish up as always with our rapid fire. I think it's all non-trading tonight. But just before that, if you're enjoying the conversation, hit like, subscribe, and just a reminder, we're always running the same contest. You mentioned aha moments. This one was from, I think you might need to work on your username. User-QY9FL5TD7H. You've won a free month of IU. Your main takeaway was from last week was what kind of setup is this? Is it A plus, B, B, C? And plan your risk accordingly. So yeah, thank you for marking your key takeaway. And if you got your aha moments, takeaways from tonight's conversation, please write them below to win a free month of IU. And lastly, user QY9FL, just email Tyler@investorsunderground.com to get your free month. First question. This one was popular a couple of weeks ago, so we brought it back. Favorite trading movie?
Probably Margin Call.
Was that the one that what everyone agreed with last week or a couple weeks ago?
That's the one that I mentioned. I love that movie. And I actually, after we talked about it, I went and saw it. And oh my gosh, it's just so good. I feel like it depends on your trading style if you'll really enjoy it. But like for someone who likes to dive into things or likes economics too, that's just such a good movie.
It is.
Popular choice. This is my favorite question. What has been your best purchase? And we stipulated under $1,000 because I know you probably bought a house within the last year or something. What's been your best purchase under $1,000 recently?
I bought the kids' fishing poles. That's basically the best return on investment there.
I thought you were going to say like a new driver or something, but
no,
that works. Fishing poles, that works. And what is the best habit that viewers can implement starting tomorrow?
Okay, so this is a good one. Hopefully the answer is not too drawn out, but just get into the habit of being extremely disciplined, not just in trading, like outside of trading too. So like a routine's really helpful, especially in the morning. If you're US based trader, what time does the market open where you're at, Sam?
2:30.
Yeah, in the afternoon, right? So it's like
PM, yeah. So pre-market's 9 a.m.
Yeah, so like if you're not a US based trader, maybe it's a little different. But for me, it's big to have like a morning routine, and it as much of things can be like automated. Like I do everything in the morning the exact same way. Like I wake up, I walk the dogs, I make coffee the same way. Like my breakfast is, dude, you'd be amazed at how many days in a row I'll eat the exact same breakfast. Like it's insane. But it's this concept of just making it so there's not a lot of decision making I need to do in the morning. Everything's really automatic, very disciplined. Going to the gym very regularly. Just things that aren't maybe necessarily what you want to do because maybe they're a pain in the ass, but you do them because you identify as a disciplined person. And that's huge. That's a huge thing, is to identify that way, because you need to, in your head, identify a way, because once you identify as something, your behaviors will start to fit how you identify, right? Like if you identify as a sloppy person, guess what? Your actions will subconsciously be sloppy. It's so important to build this attitude and identity of what it is you want to be. You want to be a disciplined trader, you have to identify as a disciplined person, and that has to be in all aspects. So if you want to build a good habit, that would be the one I recommend.
Yeah, I agree. And even though like it starts a bit later for me, my days, I never have like any sort of like Sunday blues or evening blues. I always look forward to my morning, and and I've touched on this before, but I go ice bath. I have the same breakfast every morning as well. I mean, mine's just a protein shake. I have a protein shake with milk, and then usually it's quickly driving range. Usually hit 60, 120 balls.
Nice.
Gym, and then I'm back into the office, sort of like 12:30-ish, ready for the trading day. And then, I mean, I love it. I talk about it. I mean, I'd like to shift it a couple hours, perhaps somewhere in between East and where I am now. Like maybe like 11 o'clock open would be great. Close at 6. Get all that stuff done in the morning, and then still enjoy like an evening. But great.
You know who it was? I think maybe Mark Zuckerberg, talking about the shirts that he wears in his closet. It's like all he has like 50 of the same color shirts, or like the same
Homer Simpson's a genius.
Steve Jobs did something similar, right?
It was maybe it was Steve with the black shirts, and he just like no time wasted in the morning. He just opens his closet, same shirts, puts it on, and goes to work. Like, who cares what kind of shirt you're wearing? It's just time is more important.
My cousin makes fun of me because I always wear the Traders for a Cause shirts. He's like, dude, do you only wear clothes that were given to you for free? I'm like, bro, it's like once you're a dad, all that other stuff just go. I'm like, I don't care, man. Yeah. I wear it to the gym, wherever I'm going. I'm like, whatever, it's comfortable.
It's the same with me. Like, I understand it, and like in the future, I know like I don't have kids or anything, but like I know in the future I'll understand it when my kid wants something or when my wife wants something. But I know like I don't care for it, and like people think like, oh yeah, Ricky doesn't have style. He look at what he wears, but
do they? Is that what they think?
It's like he knows. That's not what I think.
I don't care.
Like,
honestly.
But like
on an average day, I'm telling you right now, it's a Traders for a Cause shirt and some gym shorts or whatever. But like, I mean, when we go out, I got clothes for that. Like, there's clothes for occasions.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, you need to wear the right clothes to occasion, but on the day to day, like, doesn't matter. Just things more important out there.
Free T-shirt, Nike tracksuit bottoms every day. That's exactly. The combo. I even have the same. I have the same pants. What do you call them? Like underwear, boxers or whatever.
Yeah.
I only have Calvin Klein's. It's literally it's every day. It's the same items. This is how sad I am actually. Maybe like 2 years ago, I called it the sock project. I threw all my socks out and then bought the same pair of. So I've got like Nike normal socks, the same trainer socks. So I don't have to think about it. I don't have to put pairs together. It's just that's a sock. That's a sock. I wear it. That's how. I'm probably revealing too much about my
We're going into Sam's boxer drawer.
I was thinking it's an expensive boxer drawer. I got a lot of pairs. They're not cheap, mine.
Also, Ricky, that's the thing with this business. It's like nobody's not going to give you business because you're wearing a certain clothing or shirt. Like, you don't do business deals specifically, and if you did, you would wear the right clothes for that. And your kids and wife aren't leaving you for wearing a Traders for a Cause T-shirt. So, I completely agree with your mindset on that.
Yeah, I need Nate to send me the 2023 one since I missed it last year.
Yeah.
We got to send you a Trading Take shirt.
Send you a trade. Yeah, we'll have to get you a trading one as well. Yeah,
that's what's up.
Cool. No, that's great thoughts. This is an interesting one. If you could only eat one meal over and over again for the next year, what would it be?
All right. Well, this is if I could only eat one meal that I would like, right? Because I do only eat like the same breakfast every morning, but it's not like exciting. If there was one thing I could pick to eat for a whole year and not get tired of it, it'd be pizza.
Yeah, good shout.
As boring as that sounds, man, I'm just a straight up Ninja Turtle, bro.
And like as an add-on to this, if it was for whatever reason you're in prison, what they call it, where you're like a prison meal, which is your last meal ever, what would you pick?
Oh, probably a steak. Steak's by far like one of my favorites. It would be like a, what's funny is like I've had the Wagyu and I like it, but it's one of those things where you can only have like a few bites of it, and it's just almost like over the top, too rich.
Yeah.
So like I really just like a prime cut of ribeye, and just cooked the right way. But that be my last meal for sure.
No, it's funny. You say cook the right way, and it's like whenever I go to a steakhouse and like, how do you want your steak? I tell them like 125, 130 degrees. Every place has a different saying for medium rare. Like you could say medium or medium rare.
I don't even get steak at restaurants anymore because it's a letdown. Like I'm a huge steak guy, and I cook steak really well. So like, if I can pay like $60-$70 for a few cuts of really high quality meat and cook it better than you're going to pay like $200-$300 for at a restaurant, I get upset, right? Because I'm just like, dude, like what the hell is this?
Yeah, I agree. Same thing. Cooking meat, I do a lot better at home. It's really just like if you want to go for a night out. Also, it's more difficult for me because kosher meat and all that. So, but the steakhouses, they become expensive, and it's like just make better meat for cheaper at home. It's more about just like having that occasion going out at night because we sit at the desk all day, So the only thing I look forward to is leaving at night the office and like going out, sitting and just being serviced. But
getting out of the house is a huge thing. Like, I can't talk highly enough about it. That's why midday I got to go do something. And even if it's just going to the grocery store, man, like just seeing other people and being like, feeling like you're part of a community versus feeling like a hermit.
That's a good point. So Judah, do you eat out every night then?
No, because I also learned how to cook. So like I'm grilling often. Even like dairy, I cook a little bit, but a lot of nights I'm going out.
Yeah, so I think my plan this year, I really want to buy I chat to Emil about this a lot, like a really good barbecue, just in like British. Hopefully we have like a decent summer. We've had like the worst like winter, it's so wet. I just want to sit outside. Like there's something about sitting outside after a day as well. Like, particularly when we've obviously I finished quite late here. I just want to sit outside, cook some meat, and eat it in front of a fire. That's actually like after a tough day or a good day. That's all I want to do. Next question: what's a great piece of advice you've received?
Oh, there's a lot. Honestly, I think the biggest thing that I try to implement on a routine basis is what was told to me is just the gratitude advice about. And I think one of the people that tried to drive this point home for me was Joe Fahmy, who's a good friend, and he's a smart guy when it comes to markets, but he's even smarter when it comes to his outlook on life, and that is, it's impossible. It's physically impossible to be upset and grateful at the same time. And once you kind of have that epiphany, you're like, man, the if you could just wake up every day and find something to be grateful for, it changes your whole outlook on everything. So, and that's why you'll always see me on Twitter trying to like pay that forward, right? That advice to me was something that I found so useful that, I always try to share things, whether it's hanging out with my son or my daughters or golfing or whatever it is, just like tag it with gratitude is the attitude.
Yeah. You're definitely one of the like social media can be a real, it can be a cesspit, but you're definitely one of those guys that put out a tweet that just, it can be, a lot of the time it's like non-trading and it's just like, but I think it's awesome. I do really enjoy it actually particularly when you put something about your kids or like when you're skateboarding or, now my thing is golf.
Yeah.
I'm hooked on. No, I can't. No, I love it. No, yeah, thank you. Now, this is the most important question of the day. So the Masters at Augusta has literally started. I mean, it started a few hours ago. Who's going to win?
So I'd like to see Rory take one. Another big one. But you got Brooks Koepka, you got Dustin Johnson, you got Scheffler out there. I don't know, man. I'm going to go with, gun to my head, Scheffler.
Yeah. It's all, yeah. I mean, I think they're saying he's like the biggest favorite since like Tiger back in his like heyday.
Dude, when his putter's putting well, I mean, he already has a very good game, and people always say like if he has a weak point, it's his putting. I don't see it, especially lately. Like his putting is pretty phenomenal. So,
yeah. No, I agree, and I mean, I really like Rory, and like I actually think he's playing. Like he's been playing like well. Like there's a couple weeks ago the Players. He didn't have like a particularly great score, but he still had like the most birdies out of everyone. So there's obviously signs of some form there, and yeah, hopefully he does it. But I mean, everyone's just saying, Scotty, if you have to put $5 on something,
I think Rory gets another major soon. We'll see if it's this weekend or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had to get that question in there. I said to these two, we can't have Ricky on and not talk about. I've got to at least say something about golf because it's.
What's funny is like in the middle of this talk, it started raining outside my office, and the only thing in my mind was, damn it, that means I can't golf later.
Well, the good thing about this time zone is, so like I played golf. So me and my mate, we just got a membership at a country club. It's brilliant. But we played. I mean, I only had time for like 12, 13 holes. But that's you're talking about gratitude is the attitude. Like what a way to start your day. With a round of golf, and then you get to sit and press some buttons and then have a conversation.
The link between golf and trading is so serious, right? Like both of them are such mental sports. Like you could just you could be playing like shit and just get in your own head, and it just goes even worse. Or you can do the opposite, right? You can figure out how to mentally be strong and forget about the last hole, and you can completely turn your whole game around. And then if you play golf before you trade, that's an interesting concept because like obviously I can't do that out here. I play golf after I trade. So like if you have a good round, does that make your trading go better or worse? Because I know if I have a shit day trading, a lot of times I go out and golf and I golf like shit. And I think the mental aspect of the trading carries over to the. Is
that you then like trying to like? Are you always trying to make sure you had something good out of the day? If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I love golf. And in fact, like it's okay. I don't mind having a shitty round of golf because I enjoy doing hard things. Like I try to like focus on that. Like I love lifting weights. Is lifting weights fun? Not always, but I like to challenge myself. Golf is hard as hell. That's why I like doing it. So like when you go out and try to golf and you suck, you're just kind of reminding yourself like, hey, this shit's hard. Like that's why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. The links as well with like my trading is best when I'm not overthinking. And it's exactly the same. Like as soon as I start thinking about too many technical points with my swing, I just know I just know it's going absolutely nowhere. But yeah, I had a good round I actually had a good round. I mean, I think there's nothing better than hitting the driver and spreading the fairway. Like I think that's one of the best feelings God ever created. Certainly up there. Right, we're running out of time, so let's wrap it up. Ricky, thank you so much for joining us. Had an absolute blast. And Chris, you're always the last person to speak on this show. Anything to wrap it up? Yeah,
just Ricky. I mean, it's been phenomenal to meet you for the first time and to talk with you. And I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this episode. So we just really appreciate you coming on, and hopefully I'll get to meet you in person sometime, and we can do some skateboarding. I actually used to skateboard when I was younger, but I have not in a long time. So maybe you can get me back into it.
I look forward to it, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
I used to skateboard, but that was before I was 300 pounds. On that note, thanks, guys. See you later, everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of Trading Takes. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please check out some of others with some great traders. Thank you for watching.